So what we're working on now is the granulation that we're going to decorate our flower and our pendant with. Now I've gone ahead and started here, and I've got a little pile here. You're going to need a lot of this. If you notice, what I've got a little setup here is, because this has a ledge, I've taken this foam pad for beading. You could take anything. It's irrelevant what it is. All it's for is to raise this piece of paper up level with this so I can clip my granulation and then scoot them off. And I also have this rumpled piece of paper. This is an old one, but this is what I use to photograph my jewelry on. This one's old and dirty, but the reason I've picked it is because it's rough, and a slick piece of paper, they're going to roll a little bit more. So you could just find something that's a little rough, or even maybe a piece of fabric or something that it's going to catch to and not roll off. I would have used probably just the pad, but I didn't think the tape would stick to the pad. I used the tape so this thing doesn't get slid out of whack. Also, there's a little hole right there where that screw is, and those little granules will get in that. So that's kind of what I've got here. Now, if you don't have this, you're not going to need to do any of this. Or if you don't have a ledge or something that you need to accommodate for. If you're doing it, let's say for instance, on your steel block, then you could literally sit that on your paper or your pad, do your granulation, slide them off, and then do more. But I knew here, being up on this, I couldn't slide the paper under it and slide them off. So I've accommodated that. But you want to make it easy on yourself when you're doing this. So whatever setup you're going to use, make sure that you're not chasing these little boogers all over the place. So this is what I've got. This is what I'm doing. Now, I've got a washer. This is the washer I use all the time. I don't change washer sizes. I could go down a washer size, but it's easier, and I've got a system that I'm going to show you guys that will make perfect gradiated granulation every single time using just the one washer. Another few tips that I use, this is just a little, and you can tell how old it is because it's very, very yellowed. It's just a little tray. I think it's a little paint tray, maybe something you could find at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. And I use this while I'm doing my patterns to sort my different sizes in. So this is something that you could pick up and help you. I love to do granulation. It's a little bit time consuming, but it really shows a level of professionalism in your jewelry. You see a lot of designs where they've taken the sterling silver wire that looks like a string of little balls. That's cute, that's beautiful, and if that works for you, I say go for it. However, because it's sterling, it does have to be soldered down. I like the granulation because people that do jewelry see that it is a step above. They know you did granulation. And even the customers, even if they don't know that you didn't use wire, they notice that that's an intricate design element, and it's really super easy with argentium. Another thing that I have here, now I've got it turned different ways. The two types of wire that I use most of the time is 20 gauge and 14 gauge wire. That's just real common, and the reason is between those two gauges of wire, doing the granulation in the system that I've designed, I really don't need to use any different wires. So what I've done is I've got this other little Craftmate box. Now this is cool because this will lock and you can turn it over and they won't fall open. You can't even bump these open. and trust me, I've dumped so many little itsy bitsies in carpet in different places. I like a good locking system. So this opens it, and then you can open that and get what you want out. So what I've done is I've marked these, but they're not, those markings aren't going to mean anything to you yet. So we'll revisit that in just a bit. So the way that I do my granulation is I take we're using 20 gauge wire this time, and I've got my washer. Now we did granulation on the beginner project, the stripes pendant. This is exactly the same. This is going to be a lot more detailed and a lot more intricate, and we're going to learn the gradiated system. So you're going to take your wire just like you did before, take your flush cutters, and you're going to rest that flush side on that washer, and you're going to snip your wire. I had a little one escape there, so I'm going to scooch him over. I don't know how much you're going to need. And again, I hate to be vague, but your pendant may be different, and you may decide you want a little bit different design, or you may want to add or reduce the amount of granulation you do. But make a lot. It's going to take way more than you think, and that is what this little Craftmate container is for. If I make too much, I simply store it away. I've got the sizes marked, so I'll always know what I've got, and it'll save me down the road. I will have to make less granulation. So you can't make too much. It won't go to waste. I promise, once you learn this method, you'll want to use this over and over again in your projects. So I'm going to continue snipping until I've got a truckload of little snippets here, and then we will get back and I'll show you how to make gradiated granulation. So now I've got quite a bit of granulation done, and I'm getting ready to ball it up, just as we did in the beginner class. Now, admittedly, this is a grass-growing, slow-going process, but it really does go faster than you think it will when you're in the midst of it. And I put as much granulation out here as I can. You don't want to get them too close together unless that's on purpose thing, which we're going to see here in a little bit. But yes, one at a time, you're going to put your granules. And obviously, for me, tweezers are the easiest way to do that. So for now, I'm just going to stop here. I've got these few granules, and I'm going to take my torch. You can use any torch that they're currently using to do this. So just as before, you're going to focus your flame on one of the little granules. Now this process will go faster and faster as your charcoal block heats up. Then once it has balled up, you'll simply move to the next one. As you're heating and making the granules, the flame of the torch is actually warming those next to it. So you'll see it is becoming faster and faster as I move along. I'm going to go back here to the beginning just because it was the first one and it was slow going. I want to make sure I've got a good round ball. Okay. Now what I want to show you is how to make perfect gradiated granulation. So these granules are all what I call number 1. They are 1 snippet and they are 20 gauge. Now, in order to make gradiated granulation, I'm just going to move him over there. The next size up, now I do this, actually, let's just do it that way. So I have a 1. In order to make the next size, I'm going to put 2 snippets together. Now, in order to, because sometimes this size difference is so challenging to recognize if you were to just pile them all up. What I do is I make all 1 pass of 1s, or 2s, or 3s, or 4s. Then I put them in my tray. All of the 1s would go here, all of the 2s. Otherwise, sometimes your eye can't differentiate one from another until you get to laying them out on your pattern, and then you can do them on the fly. Obviously, you would do it differently. So that would be a 2, a 3, and now I think you're getting it, would be 3 snippets together. A 4 would be 4 snippets together. Using the same washer and the same size wire, I know every single time I'm going to have the exact perfect size that I need. So let's say I got into the project, I'd made all my granulation, and I was doing a project, and I was short 1 number 4. I know I could come back to this washer, 20 gauge wire, cut 4 snippets, and heat them up to a ball and have the exact right size that I need. Now, a lot of people recommend using different size washers, different size wire. To me, that's too risky because maybe it will be bigger, maybe it won't quite be bigger. This is going to give you a very exact gradation in size. So that's number 4. Let's put 5 together. Now, if you already had your granulation balled up, it doesn't matter. You could pile 5 of those together, 4 of those together, 3. Just because they're in the balled up state does not mean you cannot combine them. And they will combine. That's why I caution when you are making them initially, do not get them too close because there's some sort of a magnetic reaction that causes them, if they get too close, to cling. So if you don't want them to cling, you need to keep them far apart. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do 6. There's 6. Let's do 7. And there's 7. I'm going to scooch them up close. Piling them in a pile is great if you can do that. If they don't want to pile, then that's fine too. Now, you can take, if you have a solder pick and you're heating them and maybe one rolls away or whatever, you can just simply take your solder pick, keep it in hand, and roll them back together. Sometimes because the torch comes out, it kind of creates a blowing effect, and sometimes it will blow them apart. And so that's why it's a good thing to have a solder pick in hand. It's just I don't want that solder pick. Okay, so we're going to make our gradiated granulation. We already have the 1. This is the 2. Okay. Our charcoal block is still warm, so it's going a little faster. There's a 3. The larger in size that we go, now that's not wanting to quite ball up there. The larger in size that we go, the more heat that it takes. And that one's coated in charcoal. I'm going to have to come back to that and see if that did what it was supposed to do. It's 5. Here's our 6. Here's our 7. Now see how that rolled apart? We're just going to stick them right next to each other. And see how it just popped in there? Let me come back to this little one. I think he did fine. I think he... Okay. I'm going to lay them out here on this. We have a 1. We have a 2. 3. I'm going to roll him over so the charcoal side's down. 4. 5. 6. And 7. Now you can see how slight between each one the size difference is, but you can obviously see the size difference from the 1 and the 2, and you have got a perfectly gradiated granulation system that will be exquisite on your jewelry. Now I'm going to give you a set pattern of what to do, but if you have less room between some of these places than you do in others, you may want to do something differently. And also, I decided that I did want just one little piece of wire here, just to kind of continue this illusion. So I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to fuse all of this at the same time. So I'm going to continue with my granulation. Now, we're going to put these small ones all the way around. Then, where this part recesses, we're going to put a larger one. I don't know if we're going to go all the way to the 7. I think that would be pretty. I think that looks fine. And then we're going to come out and we're going to gradiate. Now sometimes when you're making a pattern, you may want to skip. You may want to go from a 7 to a 5 to a 3 to a 1. That's certainly doable as well. And I think on this one, that might be fine because we're going to run into another dip here before we get to our next spot. So if we did a 7, a 5, a 3, and a 1, and that's still not going to give us enough room. So I'm going to play with my pattern to see what I come up with. I want you to do the same. You can be sheep that just follow rules, but art and jewelry making is intuitive, and you're not going to learn to be creative if I don't give you some latitude. Also, I don't know exactly how you made your petals, so we're going to play with this. You're not going to need very many of the great big ones. Also, for in here, we're going to take and we're going to put some of them in there. So this is a 5. So I think a 5, I think we'll skip on it. A 3, we're going to put a 3 on each side. And then we're going to come down with a few 1s. And we're going to do that definitely in these, probably in all of them. I think that would be beautiful to have that extra little detail inside our petals. Because we're doing that, I think we're probably going to need less detail out here. So let's do, putting these back so I'll know where they came from. Let's just do the 1, 2s, 3s here. Let's put a 3 here. Let's put a 2 on each side of him. Now when we get the flux on here, those will stay so much easier. And then we'll do a 1. And once I get ready to actually put these on, obviously I will film that. We'll be back and you'll see how I do that. And you'll see how I lay it all out. The only reason I'm going into such detail regarding this now is that you're going to have some sort of an idea, even if not an exact number, on how much granules to do. So if we were to do a 5, a 3, and a 1, you're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the number 5s. So if you made a few extra, because sometimes they go rolling off and you can't find them. So if you're going to make that many of the number 3s, or the number 5s, excuse me, you're going to make twice that of the number 3s, and then we're going to bring the number 1s down a bit. So you're going to need several of those. So for this, we're using 1, 2s, and 3s. So we're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're not going to worry about this. So we're going to need 6. Let me count that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the number 3s. We're going to need twice that of the number 2s, and we're going to fill in with the number 1. So you're going to need tons and tons and tons of those. So you can see why this tray, having this tray to stay organized, is such a benefit. You can put all of your number 1s in there, all of your number 2s, your number 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, and 7s. Then I use this portion down here often when I'm making a design to see how it lays out and to see if that's what I'd like. And so sometimes I'll lay my design out here before actually applying it to my piece. Now another option that we can do, depending on how close you put your wires, we could do a ring of granulation there. It would definitely have to be the 1s. And in the center of your ring, you could even put 1 number 7 if you wanted to, or several number 1s. You could put several of those in the center of that. It might make it look more like a little sunflower. Maybe 3 would do. Depending on the room. Actually, I think I've got room on mine for 4. So maybe even 5. How about that? Yeah, I could put 5, and I think that's what I'll do. I don't think I'll put granulation here because one side of where my wires are is a little narrower than here. Now, if I really wanted to put the granulation there, I could come along with a little file or a little burr on my flex shaft and I could grind that out. I'll think about that. I could make that just enough wider to get a granule in there, and then I could put the number 1s all the way around. So for now, the next step you're going to need to do is you're going to need all of your granulations. I would probably make, on the bigger sizes, I would probably make 10. That way you'll have a few extra for other projects, and you'll definitely have enough in case you drop one or lose one. They do go skittering off. And then I can't even begin to tell you how many of the number 1s. But again, you're going to use a lot of them. You can always save them and store them. You can see with my box, I'm going to open some of these up so you can see it better. I just took a little label maker. I printed them all out at the same time, and then I just cut them. Now, if you don't have a label maker or anything like that, you could write it in there with a Sharpie. So you can see here, I've got a number 1 in 20 gauge, number 2 and 20 gauge. So this row is all 20 gauge with various gradations. So once I'm done with this project and I don't want to have to worry about spilling this, I will take them from that, the leftovers, and I will put them in here. This side is exactly the same, except I have it for 14 gauge wire. That's an organization tip that I hope helps you. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to continue to make my granulation. I'm going to get them sorted in the tray, and then we'll be back. So once I have them in my little basket here, often there is little bits of charcoal. So I take the bottom end of my tweezers and I just kind of rake it over them. And that will usually knock off all those extra little charcoal bits. Because it's certainly better to add our granulation to our pieces charcoal free. We don't want to have any charcoal on there if there's any possible way. Then I just simply, because they're already cool, so I just simply put them in my tray right out of my little basket. This time the basket is not needed to quench or to pickle. We did not use any flux, so we did not need to pickle.